All right, well, how you all doing? Long day, right? Up and down? Bad news, good news, right? Well, I'm here to help you with some good news. First of all, I want to say thank you for sitting in that chair for as long as you have today. Give yourself a hand. And give everybody here a hand who's helped make this possible. It's an amazing thing. Give her a hand. Give everyone a hand. It takes a lot of work to get this done. Now, yeah, there's a war out there, but there's also warriors. Everyone say, I am a warrior. That's right. We are the solution for this problem. Now, I've been helping people with sexual addiction for over 25 years. Every day, it's what I do. Monday, we do 3-day and 5-day intensives. Some people come from all over the country and world. I had a guy from Nigeria just the other day, very successful business guy. So they come from all over to get free from sexual addiction. And they do. Well over 80 I think it's 83.5 stay sober from the day they leave our office, and then about 12% have 1 or 2 relapses, and then only about a few percent actually don't make it. Most make it because it's a treatable thing. Now, my story is I was conceived in adultery, so I get this thing from a DNA level. Okay, honestly. Okay, and then I was put in foster homes. I was sexually abused, abandoned. I get it. I was addicted to alcohol and drugs and sex. By the time I was in high school, I was living with a 23-year-old. I know what it's like to be totally out of control and crazy. I also know what it's like to be free. I've been free for over 27 years. I take a polygraph to verify that. If anyone's in my clinical team, they take a polygraph to verify that. And if you come visit us and you have a sexual addiction issue, you might take a polygraph, and to help your wife understand what you've actually done, and she can reestablish trust, because trust can be rebuilt. You can absolutely know if someone's clean. We do that every week. And so freedom is possible, and it's able to be done. Now, I want to start with some of the stuff I'm going to leave you with. I've written over almost 50 books right now. I got 3 going to press here in a few weeks. I got another one coming out in January. It's already written. I'm working on another one right now. It's just what I do for fun. See, once you get free from addiction, you have so much bandwidth that you got to do something with it. And so that's what I do with mine. I don't watch TV. I just write books. It's hysterical. So I just thought I'd go over real quick. We got the clean resources. That's if you got a church and you want to start just a sexual purity thing. That's good for any guy. Lust-free living as well. Our free app. Everyone say free. It's over in 30 countries already. And so this has a free tip for recovering guys every day. Goes to their phone. You just download the app. Okay. Also for the partners, the wife of a sex addict, a free tip for her every day. And it's usually quote out of one of our books or workbooks or materials or just some great thought we've had. And then there's also one for marriage. So even if you got no recovery issues, you just want to have a great marriage, there's a free marriage tip every way. It's Dr. Doug's tips, okay? And then we got the stuff on intimacy, anorexia, married and alone. Intimacy, anorexia, if you're working with sexual addiction, you're going to run into it. They're too busy for their spouse. They blame their spouse. They withhold love, praise, sex, spiritually. Don't talk about their feelings. Use anger and silence as a way to control. Have ongoing criticizing of you. May control around money. But oftentimes you feel like a roommate. You feel married and alone. And if you're with the recovering community, you're going to definitely want to have that information, because about 1/3 of them, both the guys and the spouses, have that issue. And then we got the freedom stuff for sexual addiction, partner stuff for sexual addiction. Letters to my daughter. My daughter went to school. I wrote her a letter every day, and those are in that book there. And stuff for teenagers, Born for War, Princes and Frogs. I mean, having this stuff stop with our teenagers is great. And so there's a lot of stuff over there, and you're welcome to do that. Oh, also the ASAP program. I'm the president of the American Association for Sex Addiction Therapy. If you're a therapist or a coach and you want to be certified as a sexual recovery therapist, it's 7 DVDs now, over 200 academic references, and you will be skilled by the time you get through that process to successfully treat sex addicts, understand the 6 types. Now, I'm not here to talk about sex addiction. I can do that all day, all right? But actually what I'm here for, I've also written 5 or 6 marriage books now. I'm working on one right now. Because one of the great things that this conference wants to do is not just have you have information. In this segment, I actually want you to experience. We talk about expanding the brain and attachment and all that kind of stuff, right, all day long, right? Wouldn't that be fun to actually do? You should see how you're looking at me right now. You're like, I am not sure I want to respond to that. And as I've been here throughout the day, I noticed that most of you, almost 85% of you, are with your spouse or significant other. And some of you, they're not here, or you're not married or whatever. And if you want to connect with another person of the same gender, that's fine, because we're going to do some work. I'm going to give you tools on how to actually do this stuff so that when you leave, you feel closer than when you left. Is that okay? See, I'm used to being talked back to. See, I'm a psychologist. And so if you don't talk back to me, I think, woo, woo, okay? So It's okay to nod or something. All right. Now, I know you had a long day. I take that. And caffeine stopped about 3 hours ago, and I get that. And you're like wanting your next hit. But I want to talk about spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy. Because we are triune, having intimacy on all three levels is very powerful. Talk about a brain high. Wow. Real intimacy is really fun. Anybody have a testimony they want to share? You know, all looking like, I'm just starting recovery, man. I don't got a clue what you're talking about. Okay, fine, that's fine. Okay, but anybody can have intimacy. Intimacy is a result of a known set of disciplines. Intimacy is a result of a known set of disciplines. If you're fat, you can be skinny if you change your disciplines. If you're skinny, you can get fat if you change your disciplines. If you're poor and you want to get rich, you can change your disciplines and become rich. If you're rich and you change your disciplines, you can become poor. Health, wealth, intimacy, all are results. Once you know the set of disciplines you need to have to gain those results. What I'm going to do is give you the toolkit. Now, you decide if you go home today and use it or not. That's on you. But if you actually use it, you can be very successful. I've had couples who have not had sex in 10 and 20 years and say, oh my God. No, that's what I mean. Say, oh my God. Wow, you guys are slow. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right? Oh my God. 20 years without sex, sleeping in the same bed. Within 6 weeks of doing what I'm about to show you, they not only liked each other, they were having sex. Because what they did is they changed their disciplines, which gave them intimacy, which made them want to be together. Does that make sense? I mean, if you want carrot juice to taste good, just start drinking it 2 or 3 times a day. In about 3 or 4 weeks, you'll know where it's on sale. We are adaptive neuroplastically, which is what we learned today, right? So we can actually adapt to a higher level of intimacy if we discipline ourselves in that manner. Okay, so there's three parts of it: spiritual, emotional, and sexual. Okay, so I thought what we do today is have a little fun and let the audience decide where we start. We're going to get it all done. I got plenty of time in the next 3 hours to get it done. Okay? Usually it's like a 3 to 6 hour conference. I'm going to give you just the tools. This is all tools today. Okay, I'm not going to give you the whole theory and understanding of it, just give you the tools. But how many of you would like to start with spiritual intimacy? We'll start with spiritual. Okay, how many would like to start with emotional intimacy? Okay, how about sex? You guys want to start right? Okay. All right, you guys lost. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, well then we'll start with spiritual intimacy. Okay. Now, many of you have a faith background. What's interesting is in the faith community, even they have a misunderstanding of marriage. Okay, they almost have a secular understanding of marriage. It's really funny because in the garden, you're all familiar with the story. But oftentimes people read that story as if God stopped creating when he created woman. Now, woman is amazing, and she's unfathomable, okay? And she's magnificent, majestic in all of her beauty and wisdom. But she's not the final creature. The final creation in garden was marriage, where God took the man, raw material A, took Eve, raw material B, put himself in it, and created a Trinity on earth as it is in heaven. A three-faced creature that serves and loves one another and becomes one and can multiply life. Now that'll preach. Okay, so, but that's what's really happening is our spiritual connectedness. So how do we actually do that? Now, you may not have a whole lot of faith background. In AA, in recovery, they have a kind of a principle way of looking at things. And, they say there's 3 times to go to meeting. When you want to go to meeting, when you don't want to go to meeting, and 8 o'clock. And they move the addictive personality from emotions over intellect to intellect over emotions. They become principle-based instead of emotion-based. Just by getting themselves in that chair for 90 meetings, 90 days, they become principle-based in one area, one very small area of life, and then they can actually start showing up at work on time and translate it into other things. Okay? So regardless of your faith background, it doesn't really matter if you had any faith. I have one guy, I was in Texas for a while, now I'm in Colorado Springs, and I'm so glad I'm in Colorado Springs, but I'll never forget him. He was about 6'3" or 4", and he's like, Doug, the God thing. I go, listen, I'm not talking about you coming to any kind of faith. That's not my issue. You're a sex addict, you're paying me a lot of money to help you, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to pray every day and ask God to keep you clean. Well, I can do that. Good. So he started doing that. About 2, 3, 4 weeks later, he's like, he says, I still know about that God thing, but that prayer thing really works. Okay? And he would tell me story after story after story about him praying and getting some kind of answer. Imagine that. So we're just going to rotate back and forth, guys first, girls second, kind of get back and forth like that, kind of equal opportunity to go first. All right? So now if you're not with your significant other or spouse, you can do this on your own, or if you got a friend you want to do this with, fine. But either way, write down the tools. Because if you're not married, you want someone who can do all these tools before you do marry. Okay? You get your pens out, because the next half hour, you're going to be writing. Okay? You see, I don't have a PowerPoint. That's because I'm using your pen. Your pen is my PowerPoint. Okay? So the first one is going to be pray. So what I want you to do, and we're going to literally do this. We're not going to watch me talk. We're going to literally do this, okay? Because I can tell you're in a frame of listening. Student, now we're going from student to actually interacting. We're colleagues, okay? So guys, what I want you to do is I want you to pray out loud with your spouse, and then just for about 30 seconds or maybe a whole minute if you're real spiritual, okay? And then ladies, I want you to pray. Now, if your spouse won't pray, just raise your hand so we know who they are. Because if you're unwilling to try new things, you can't get neuroplastic activity to move. Now, if you try a new thing, neuroplasticity will start helping you. See what you learned today? Now it's called application. Love it. Okay, so go ahead and pray. So that's the beginning of spiritual intimacy, is praying, and I would encourage you to do that every day. I'm going to give you 3 dailies by the time we're done, and if you'll do those in the next 4 or 5 weeks, you'll have a significant shift in your marriage. Now, you can believe me or you can do them and be the first person to email me and tell me I'm wrong. Okay? But if you actually do these things, you actually get results. And it's so much cheaper than therapy. I mean, it costs a lot to talk to me. This is free, okay? So that you can actually do this at home. What's really beautiful is principles can be transferable. You can teach your friends, you can teach your neighbors, you can teach people you care about in your spiritual community, and they can have the same results as well. Okay, now this one's a little challenging because we all know the story in the beginning, but then there was like that chapter 3 problem where they ate the apple. That was a bummer in the whole story. Like from there on, the story just kind of took a left for quite a while. Okay, and so but what happens is we all have kind of a disposition to make mistakes. Shall we say it that way? How many of you are married to someone who makes mistakes? How many of you are that person? Yeah. Okay. Now, what's really funny is the way that we deal with it, because some people, the way they deal with mistakes is they don't talk about it. They go down the dysfunctional, don't talk, don't feel, don't trust rules. Okay? Or they stuff it. Or the worst is, we can talk about your mistakes, but we never talk about my mistakes, because your mistakes are really bigger. Right? And so what happens is it becomes this unauthentic dishonesty inside of a marriage or inside of a relationship. Because we can't be authentic, because you can only be authentic if you're honest about both sides of you. If you're only honest about the good side of you, that's awesome. It's just not real. So then you'll teach your kids to be weird. No, I didn't do it. It's on camera. I saw you did it. Something's wrong with that camera. Right? And especially if people with anorexia, they have real hard times being wrong because there's the good box, bad box, or an object relationship with self. Okay? And so they have difficulty being flawed and loved. They're flawed or loved. Okay? But we're all flawed and loved because we're flawed. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. And that makes you healthy. Okay, good. So, we all make mistakes in marriage. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of 2, kind of small to medium size, nothing really super big, okay? Because I want someone crying on the floor, okay? Mess up the whole day. All right, but what I want you to do is a small or medium, kind of just mistakes that you make. These could be attitudes. These could be beliefs. These could be actual behaviors. These could be things you consistently forget to grow up in. Whatever it is, just think for about another 30 seconds. Because part of us having spiritual connectedness is having authenticness. And what I'm finding is that some people have difficulties admitting that they're wrong, admitting that they're flawed, to the person who knows they're flawed. Like we just know. How many of you know your spouse is flawed? Right. It's not like a secret. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell the kids. Okay, I think they kind of know. Okay? And it's good for them to know because then they can be flawed and loved. And when they accept that they're flawed and loved, they can be honest about when they make mistakes. Okay? All right, so who was first last time? Guys. So girls, you're up first. Ladies, so here's what I want you to do. Now, this is going to take eye contact. Everyone say eye contact. That means you're looking at each other, not shoes, not knees, not lights, not rugs, each other's eyes. Okay, so ladies, you're going to look into your husband's eyes. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to say, I'd like you to forgive me for ... Now, guys and ladies, you have two responses. I forgive you, or I need more time. That's it, not tell me more. Dig deeper, buddy. Not sure I quite get what you're saying, right? So none of that. Just I forgive you, or I need more time. So then you'll do your two, ladies, and then when you're done with your two, the guys will do their two. Okay? Stop looking at me and look at each other now. Okay? And if your spouse isn't here, you can do this when you go home. I'm sure they'll be surprised. Okay? How was that? Anybody die? How many of you feel a little closer to your spouse now than you did just 10 minutes ago? See, it's already working. You see how this works? And if you have a lifestyle of this, you could have a lifestyle of closeness. And I'm only starting with the first part. If you'll do what I'm asking you to do, you'll have great sex. Okay, but that's like in 15 more minutes. So hang. You walk out now, you keep getting what you got. Okay, so you might just hang for 15 more minutes, okay? All right, now, so that's spiritual intimacy, praying together and confessing and being honest. That'll help you stay spiritually stronger and connected to each other, and that is a great fortifier against any addictive process. Being authentic, because addictions usually are trying to medicate something you're trying not to be honest about, whether it's past abuse, pain, or present flaws that you got going on. Okay, being authentic can help heal that. Now, emotional intimacy. Let's go down that road for a minute. Now, I have 4 degrees. Like many of the people up here, they got lots of degrees. We do that thing, okay? And so, you would think somewhere along the way that someone would have taught me how to do emotions. Like 2 of mine are in Bible and 2 of them are in counseling. I got 2 counseling degrees and not 1 class in emotions. Actually, I got a new book coming out in January called Emotional Fitness. Definitely. I'm going to give you a little tease, but this will help. But nowhere in our culture, think about it. Where do you get taught to become emotionally literate, fluent, and competent and strong? Your high school? That ain't going to work. College? No. Church? Synagogue? Okay, maybe therapy if you go to a decent therapist. Okay, you can always tell those Hollywood stars who went to therapy, I feel this, I feel that. Like they came out of the rehab. Okay? But there's not a lot of places, just generally speaking, where you get emotionally skilled, and yet we're emotional beings, and that's what we're being talked about all day long. What separates us, what makes us amazing is our ability to feel and emote. And yet you would think if that was the amazing part of us, the special part of us, there'd be some kind of training. Right? That would only make sense. We don't make sense in Western culture. Okay? We just need to make sure you have a job. We don't really care how you feel about it. Right? It's just part of the funness of our culture. Okay? So I want to give you a skill. So this you have to write down, because I didn't bring my little feeling sheet. Okay, so I'm going to just write this down. Now, if you want a feeling sheet, it's about 200 lists of feelings. Just email me. Go to drdougweiss.com. Send me an email. Say feelings list, and we'll get you a feelings list. Okay, but I'm going to hand them to you today. So here's what you got to write down, though. Write this down. I feel blank when. I first remember feeling blank when. Those 2 sentences. Now, I'm going to give you some guidelines before we start this exercise. Really important you follow these guidelines. Now, these exercises I'm giving you, I've been doing these exercises for over 25 years of my own marriage. Okay? And whether I'm in South America, doesn't matter where I am. Tampa, Canada, Europe, it doesn't matter. I call my wife and we do these 3 daily exercises. Okay? Now, for the first 3 months, you do it where you get the list and you just point and go down the feelings so you can develop your emotional vocabulary. After that, just do two feelings from your day. Because once you become emotionally literate, then you're able to start becoming emotionally strong, and you can actually switch your emotions at will. Once you're able to do that, it doesn't matter what goes on around you, because what's inside of you is in control of you. You can control what's inside there, instead of constantly being a reaction to what's going on around you. Very fun thing to do. Now, okay, so let's see. Guys, you can be first, so let's do something easy for you guys. Let's see. I feel calm. Guys, you have the word calm. Okay, ladies, you have the word fascinated. And if you're married, that should be easy. Okay? Now, so let me give you the guidelines, though. Rule number 1, so maybe we'll write these down real quick as well. If you get the sheet from me, it's on the sheet, but no examples about each other. What you do not do is, I feel frustrated when you don't do that. You can feel frustrated about the kids, dogs, outlaws, politics, potholes, anything outside the relationship, not each other. Maintain eye contact. Number 2, maintain eye contact when you're sharing your feelings. And number 3, no feedback. Don't say, dig deeper, tell me more, explain that further. Just listen to the other person. What's your name? Luke. Just pick a random feeling.
Sad. Happy.
Happy. Little bipolar issue, okay? Okay. All right. So happy. No, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. That was an interpretation. I just honestly didn't hear you, okay? Okay, so happy. I'll pick that one, okay, because I don't do sad very often. So happy, I feel happy anytime my daughter is doing something successful. She did her first international TV show with me just recently, and I felt very happy with how she did on that. And she wrote an article this week in a magazine she's working for in a school paper, and I felt happy. I feel happy when she succeeds. I first remember feeling happy when I got my 10-speed bike, because I wanted it so badly. That's why it sticks out. And it was one of those, some of you are too young to remember, but remember when they first came out, the 10-speed bike, when they had those little ram horn things? That was power. Raw power. It had 10 gears, okay? And I was very happy when I saw that thing on Christmas Day. And I was probably like 12, 13, somewhere in there, maybe 14. And so, so one is present tense, one is under the age of 18. Okay, so remember the feeling words I just gave you. Think about 2 sentences. Give yourself a minute or 2 here. I feel that feeling when, present tense. I first remember feeling that feeling under the age of 18. And when you're ready, kind of tap your partner. And when you're both ready, go ahead and do it with each other. This one's going to take a little longer than the others. All right, now if you're done, if you're not done, keep working. But if you are done, ladies, you get delighted. Guys, you get overwhelmed. And go to your second one, okay? Delighted and overwhelmed. All right, good. How many of you feel a little closer now? Okay, that was work though, right? That was work. And if you want to become emotionally fit, you have to work at it. Or you can stay emotionally unfit and raise your kids that way. And then wonder why they're slamming doors and coming up with new funny names, right? Okay, most of us have very limited emotional categories. Once you take that and you spread it out, you get up to about 100, you're really skilled. And you can separate things really quickly. And then in the new book, I'm going to actually teach you how to take that to a whole nother level, okay? So that's part of emotional fitness, okay? And part of emotional intimacy is being able to share your feelings. Okay, we're talking about addiction. Addiction is avoiding feeling and medicating when you do feel. So part of recovery is feeling and talking about what you're feeling as you're feeling it, so that you don't need to have that other medicine. You can actually feel the reinforcement of an intimate relationship, which is very powerful, okay? And so, and I do these, we do these all, we're doing them for 25 plus years, okay? I designed this exercise for me. I mean, I told you my story. There's no way I learned how to be emotionally literate. I never even met my dad. I mean, how could I, emotions, that was nothing, I didn't even think about that, okay? I didn't think about the feeling until maybe my master's level. I got my master's program for counseling, I thought about feelings because I thought, I'm gonna be doing this for a living, I should probably figure this out. So I went home and I developed this exercise for me because my professors weren't teaching me, okay? And so the next part of this, though, is really helpful. So another part of emotional intimacy is the ability to praise and receive praise. All of us like to be praised. All of us deserve to be praised, okay? But some of us are unskilled at either or both. Again, there's not a praise class you got in high school, was there? How to do praise appropriately, okay? So I want to teach you this skill, and some people are good at giving it, but they're really awful at receiving it. Then what happens is the spouse is pouring it in, but they got the bottle cap closed, so it just kind of goes outside, never goes in. And then you never appreciate me. Well, that sounds like a real fun conversation. Okay? And so we want to help you with that. So I want you to think of 2 things you love, like, or appreciate about your spouse or of your significant other, however you're doing it. 2 things you love, like, or appreciate about them. Now, I lost track of who went first. Guys, girls, guys. So we're up to the ladies, right? I think, are ladies first now? Why are ladies so not honest about this? Okay. Yes, you're first. Okay. So here's what I'm going to have you do. All right, by now you have 2 in your brain, I hope, okay? And I didn't tell you this, but nothing you do in this session counts for today. It counts once you do it tonight. And tomorrow and the next day and the next day. This is just practice, okay? All right, so ladies, what I want you to do is you're going to give your spouse a praise. What I want you to do is say, however you say it, I love, like, appreciate, or value. Any one of those words, fine. ... about you. Now, guys, really important, when you let it into your heart, that's below your shoulders. You say thank you, so she gets a receipt for the deposit she just made. And then, guys, you give her one back, I really love, like, or appreciate, value, ... about you. And then, ladies, you say thank you. And then you give a second one to him, he gives a second one to you. So ping pong, back and forth. Eye contact with each other. All right. How was that? How many of you feel closer to your spouse right now than you did like before 15 minutes ago? Raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay, most of you. How many of you like to feel the way you feel right now every day? You'd like to feel the way you do. Okay, all you have to do is what I just told you to do. See, the reason you feel the way you feel is because of what you did. Intimacy and closeness is a result of what you actually do. And if you do those disciplines, you can feel this way every day. I feel this way every day. I get told something wonderful about me every day by the most beautiful woman God made for me. That's a pretty cool deal, okay? So, but now if you don't, you won't, okay? So we call them the 3 dailies. It's 2 feelings, 2 praises, and prayer every day. All you got to do is look at your hand. 2 feelings, 2 praises, and prayer every day. If you'll do that, you'll have intimacy, and your neuroplasticness will work for you instead of against you. You'll start hungering for intimacy. You'll start desiring to be closer. You'll start wanting to be connected because you are connecting yourself intentionally. Intimacy is not an accident. It's not for the rich, the beautiful, or whatever you come up with. It's for the disciplined. Actually, I deal with a lot of the rich and the beautiful, and they don't have any intimacy either because they don't have discipline. You can be disciplined in one area. You can be a triathlete but be financially clueless. Right? You can be overextended in one area but be clueless in another area. And in marriage is a discipline. And if you do it well, you have those results. And you can start seeing results as someone gets to about 40, 50, and 60, right? How well they take care of their bodies, how well they take care of their finances, how well they take care of their self. Okay? And so, I don't mind being over 50, but I want to still take care of myself. You know what I'm saying? So I can keep doing better and better. Have fun. I intend to have fun the rest of my life. That's what I told my wife. Till death do us part, baby. Okay. Now, so let's talk about sex. Okay, so if you do those 3 exercises, you can have the foundation of intimacy. Now, that foundation is critical to have great sex life because sex is spirit, soul, and body. That's the way it's designed. It is not a physical act because you're a triune being. Okay, because you're a triune being, it's a triune act. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, class? No, okay. So if you're spirit, soul, and body, then what happens is if you're having sex with someone else, it's a spirit, soul, and body activity. Boom, okay? 2 spirits, 2 souls, 2 bodies becoming one. Bang. Makes you want to shout right there, doesn't it? So you're like, what is he talking about? Okay, so we'll help you later. Okay, so you know all that stuff you've been learning about the brain? Let me tell you the good news of how your brain is made for sex. So you've been hearing the bad news all day long. Okay, how it attaches and gets hijacked and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's actually the good news. Okay, the good news is if you're married and you're having sex, I'm going to give you 3 tips here in a minute. The right way, you can actually utilize the way you were created sexually and maximize it for pleasure and fun. Okay, when you have a sexual release, you get the endorphins, enkephalins, hits the excitement center of your brain, boom, you literally glue and attach to whatever you're looking at. Ring the bell, feed a dog, ring the bell, feed a dog. That's how teenagers become porn addicts. It's real simple, classical conditioning stuff. Okay, however, you can actually utilize this system yourself. Okay, now ladies, the good news for you is it doesn't matter what your body looks like. Doesn't matter what hair color it is. Doesn't matter how many wrinkles you got. If he's doing sex right, he will think you are so hot till death. Because you're literally glued to whatever it is. Doesn't matter whatever it is. It just doesn't matter. So you can turn on the lights and, all that kind of stuff and be all right about it. Okay? And guys, if you're doing this, what I'm going to suggest here, you're going to have more relational, powerful sex than ever in your life because you won't be able to disconnect during sex because it takes more IQ than you have to do that. Okay? So let me give you these 3 tips so no one is embarrassed for writing them down. Because some people are like really anxious. There's some pens that are just like this right now. Okay? So get yours or get your little laptop, your cell phone, whatever you got so at least it looks like you're participating. And write down these 3 tips. Eyes open. Eyes open. So when you're having sex, you're looking into each other's eyes. If the position permits, look into each other's eyes. because you want to connect to the soul and the being of the person, okay? So no closed-eye sex, because if the closed eyes, then the guy can be thinking about something else, not you. You could be thinking about dishes, okay? And so you're not going to glue to who they are, you're going to be distracted, okay? Because you're not looking at what's in front of you or who's in front of you, okay? So eyes open, lights on, second rule is lights on. And it doesn't have to be theatrical lighting, just simple candles, fine, okay? That's fine, as long as you can behold each other and be beheld by the other person, okay? Third is nurturing conversation. I'm not talking about dirty talk. I'm not talking about something that degrades the spirit or the soul of the person. I'm talking about something really beautiful and fun and encouraging and celebratory of the other person, who they are, the fun you're having, their body, all of that, okay? Because sex is a communication, and silent sex is really the worst type of sex, because then someone's got to be creating something else in their brain for what the absence of communication. Okay? So you want to be talking to each other. Now that may be uncomfortable. All of this may be uncomfortable because you've been having sex wrong for so long. If you're having closed eyes, don't talk, silent sex, hope that was good for you, ma'am. That kind of sex, you're not really benefited from the way you're designed, spirit, soul, body, or neurologically. Does that make sense? So go home and try this for a few weeks and a little bit, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I've never had an email, Doug, I've been doing that eyes open, lights on, nurturing conversation for a whole month now, and that's just not as good as it used to be. It's usually like, oh my God, what have we been doing all these years? This is so cool. This is so fun. I really like looking at them. Okay? So try it, and again, utilize the information you got today. Take this neuroplastic idea that you can continue to grow in any area of your life you choose to, and choose to grow sexually. Make a deliberate choice. Because sex is an ongoing development process of the human being. It doesn't stop at 18 when you get to certain pubic hairs. It doesn't. Sexual expression and sexual learning and sexual development is till death. Somebody get excited in this room other than me. You look so bored. See, you know why I'm so excited? I've been doing it right for so long, I know what I'm talking about. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, if I do this for another 30 years, I'm going to die. Okay, you might be doing it wrong, okay? So let me give you some really good ideas here, okay? Because I work with couples, we do intensives, and in recovery, there's his recovery, there's her recovery, and there's marriage recovery. And part of that redemptive process is the area of sexuality. And what I find, which is really amazing, even in very healthy couples, that they tend to argue about sexuality for decades. About what they can and can't do, will and won't do, and all that kind of stuff, what's acceptable, not acceptable, and all that kind of stuff. So I have a kind of a simple concept, and this is in the Intimacy 100-Day Guidebook. And if we run out of anything, if you'll order it either here and pay for it and write ship, we'll ship it to you Monday, no charge. Or if you go on the internet before Monday, that's like midnight Sunday, they won't charge you any shipping either. Just say conference, and they'll know that I ran out of it, and that's fine. Okay, I'm not ADD, don't worry. So going back, I'm going to give you a couple ideas. The first idea is what I call the garden. Okay? Now, the garden is a place between a husband and wife, okay? And you actually decide what's in the garden. Instead of fussing and manipulating and crying and getting to bed early and doing all that kind of crazy stuff to get out of or into things, you can actually create a discussion, a communication about what's acceptable to us, what works for us as a couple. Now, what works for you isn't going to work for your neighbors. They like Italian food, you like Korean food. You're different people, different strokes, that's okay. But as long as you're in agreement, it'll work, okay? Now, if you're a recovering person, you spent, thousands of hours watching pornography, you might have to consider that your idea may be skewed, okay? And that your spouse may not be able to do half of the things that you've created or these people have done. And it's not supposed to either, because that's non-relational, it's object sex. I'm talking about relational sex. So what you do is you create your garden. Now, your garden has basically 3 columns to it, okay? So if you're drawing it, there would be column 1, 2, and 3. In the first column would be some basic categories, okay? Positions, places, and acts. Those would be your 3 kind of general categories, okay? Now, I would come up with positions you can still physically do. Some of you look like you got a little gray on the top, okay? So, consider your own flexibility and reason, okay? All right, now, the second column would be at the top of it would be he votes, and the third column would be she votes. And there's 3 different kinds of votes, okay? There is yes, I think that's a great idea. Okay, that's a good vote. No, that is absolutely not a good idea. And W is, when I want to, I'll bring that to the garden. So let me give you an example of how the vote thing works. Let's suppose we're talking about lingerie. I'm talking about the woman wearing lingerie. Okay? You have to say that nowadays, okay? You just do. So I'm talking about her wearing lingerie. So she wants to wear lingerie. So lingerie is the thing we're talking about. That's under acts, okay? Lingerie, okay? So he votes yes, you look great in lingerie. And she votes yes, I look great in lingerie. Got a budget, I want to have fun with that, and I'm amazing. Okay, they're in agreement, it works. May not work for you, it's their garden, lingerie's in. Okay, now don't involve pornography or other people. That's not in your garden. That's outside the garden. You get in trouble there for sure. So lingerie, yes, that's in the garden. Okay, maybe it's a combination vote where he says you look great, and she's like, I feel kind of weird or cheap or kind of. It's just not me. Okay, well then it's a no. Okay, or maybe she says yes, I look great, and he's like. He's really struggling with authenticity right then, okay? So either way, that'd be an X, okay? That would not be in the garden, okay? And they'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, but get over it. It's just not in the garden. If you had a banana 20 years ago outside the garden, you should have married the banana, okay? Because maybe your garden doesn't have a banana. You understand what I'm saying, right? Somebody like, where did we just go? Okay. Talk to your neighbor, figure it out later. Okay, so the third type of vote is yes, W, or W, yes. He might say, yes, you look great in lingerie. And she's like, it doesn't really do much for me, but if it really rocks your world, I'll do that periodically. But I'll bring it to the garden. You don't ask. Now, if you vote W, though, you declare frequency. Because, he might be thinking, once a week or every other week, and you're thinking every 10th anniversary. Okay, so just be clear on what the frequency is so we're all on the same page. Or vice versa. He might have a thing where he brings that to the garden, and you keep your word when you're doing that. Okay, now we're not going to do that here in session, so don't worry about it. But I do think it's something that for you to do to have sexual harmony is to be in agreement generally with what the parameters are for that. And then I wrote a book after that called The 10-Minute Marriage, and we added a category called experimenting. Now, experimenting is when you both are willing and okay with it. It's not one person strong-arming the other person into something. Okay, that's called manipulation. You don't want to do that in your sexuality. Okay. So, but if you actually, so you both say, hey, let's fill a tub of Jell-O and have sex. Okay, that may look good on paper. Okay, but Jell-O is cold. Okay, so you have your experiment, and then you get to vote on whether you want to do that again. But you get the general idea, or maybe a certain place or whatever, and you say, okay, that works, and maybe it didn't work. Okay, so you can add that column in the 10-Minute Marriage book. Okay. So that's your garden, and you can figure that out, and once you're in agreement, then fine. The last idea I want to share with you is very, very powerful. And I would consider, ladies, really listen to me for a second here. When you leave today, this may be the favorite idea your husband has heard all day long. But I don't want you to agree to this till you get 30 days of him doing 2 feelings, 2 praises, and prayer. And I don't mean twice in 30 days, I mean 30 days in a row. Because unless you're spiritually and emotionally mature, this idea will falter. Okay? And this idea is really very powerful. Okay, I call it a sexual agreement. It's in the Intimacy book. It's in Sex, Men, and God. It's in a few things. And so what we do here, instead of arguing about sexual frequency for decades and decades and decades, we actually have a conversation and we try to figure this thing out. Now, let me tell you why this works first. Men have sexual anxiety. Let's compare it to food anxiety. Like right now, some guys are really thinking about food. It's almost 5 o'clock, and hey, let's get some steak on a grill. Something's got to happen, okay? And here's the way you increase food anxiety. Try it on your sons. Give no information when food is about to occur. And watch the male anxiety just go up, 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 up. Your girls, they won't care. The guys, Mom, seriously, when are we going to eat? I'm talking about a 6-year-old. Okay, I'm not talking about a 40-year-old. I'm talking about a 6-year-old. So the way you increase anxiety is to give no information. Okay? So with a sexual agreement, you can reduce anxiety because there's clarity on information. So it works for them. Women have what we call reverse sexual anxiety. They would like to know when sex is not going to happen. They would like to know that massage is just goodwill, not a warm-up. They would like to know that you actually put the dishes away because you love them, not because you're trying to get brownie points. Okay? And it allows them to also know when sex is going to happen and for them to have some ability to know when that's going to happen. So we call it a sexual agreement. Pretty simple concept, but powerful. What you do is first establish your frequency. So how often do you want to have sex? Once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever. As long as you're both in agreement, kind of get on agreement. So she's at 4 and you're at 2, either go to 3 or on her week 4 and his week 2. Okay, however you want to come into agreement on the number is fine. Now, if your sexuality is working so well, don't screw it up. But most people are really benefited by having an agreement. Okay? So what you do is figure out your frequency. Number 1, figure out your frequency. Number 2, you need to have some way of managing your frequency. Life is so much about management. Relationships, money, time, everything. Okay? Sex is part of that. Now, some people, it's like, between all the things they got teenagers running in 5 different directions and all this kind of stuff. They just literally pick days. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, maybe. Okay? And that's the way they do it. Some people just split the week. You get Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I get Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesdays, anybody's or nobody's, depending on frequency level. Okay. All right? Then the another thing is some people just rotate weeks. He gets the first week and the third week. She gets the second week and fourth week. And they just rotate that back and forth, so they always know who's supposed to be asking. Now, there's one flawed thing about this system, though, and that is you have to be able to ask. So here's what we're going to do. Now, only if you're married. If you're not married, don't do this exercise. Okay? So who's up, by the way? Men are up. Oh, this will be easy for you guys, right? Not always. Some guys have difficulty asking, like rub your head or your feet or turn the pillow or flip a switch. They kind of have like primitive ways of getting it done. Okay? This is sexual assertiveness training 101. Okay? So here's what I want you guys to do. You're going to ask your wife to be sexual in some clear way 3 times. Now, here's what I don't want. I don't want anything vague. Want to go upstairs? They don't know if they're getting a paintbrush or sex, honestly, so you got to be a little more clear than that. I also don't want you statements. Do you want to have sex? Own your own sexuality. I want to be sexual with you. I want to make love to you. I want to be physically intimate with you. I want to take you upstairs, take your clothes off. That's all clear. Okay? So now, the guys are going to ask 3 times. Now, ladies, I want you to respond in the positive zone, not neutral zone. Neutral zone's like, sure, okay. I want you to go higher than that. Great, awesome, love to. Glad you thought of that. I was just thinking the same thing, okay? Okay. So kind of go up in that zone. The energy should be awesome. That's the pitch you're going for, okay? So guys, you're going to ask 3 times, and then ladies, you're going to ask him 3 times so that you can ask as well. Okay, so face each other right now. All right, how many of you feel a little close to your spouse now, right? Now, for some of you, that was the hardest thing you've done. If that's you, that means that muscle's weak. Okay, and the only way it's going to get stronger is if you actually practice this every day for about 2 weeks until you can say, I want sex, like saying I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. When you can say, I want sex, like I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you're healed. Okay? Otherwise, your spouse is going to have to compensate for your underdevelopment for the next 10 or 15, 20, 30 years. Okay? And that's unkind to do, so develop your muscles so that they don't have to do that. Okay? So then the third part of the sexual agreement, okay, so you have frequency, you have some kind of management or establishing a way of figuring that out. And then the third part is setting up a consequence. Okay? Now you set your own consequence. Guy sets his, she sets hers. Maybe he details her car. Maybe she gives him a 30-minute back rub, or maybe they, give money to a political party they don't vote for, or I don't care. It just has to sting. Okay? So it's okay to say no, but then he's like, you know what? I'm so mad at you, I would rather clean the garage and have sex with you. Okay, that's legitimate anger. Okay? And then you probably want to resolve that, okay, eventually. Okay, but just kind of, doing the emotional thing back, that gets really insane. Okay, now, be sensitive to health and menstrual cycles and things like that and come up with a contingency issue on that. All right, but does this make sense? You can have a garden, which clarifies what is. You can have an agreement. Once you have the intimacy built up emotionally and spiritually, you'll be able to maintain this. You can have an agreement, and you can actually have a fantastic sex life your entire life and know when you're going to have sex. I know when I'm going to have sex. It is so awesome. Okay, especially when it's my week, okay? So, but it's great. And if you have small children, guys, put your children to bed, because your wives get tired if they put the kids to bed. Okay? Guys don't get tired putting their kids to bed. It just doesn't bother us, okay? Especially if you think you're having sex. So it's great, okay? So, now has this been helpful for you? How many of you this has been helpful, just this little conversation we've had, okay? Now you feel different because you've done different. Okay, and what you've learned today, all the way up and down on the bad side, good side, is basically this. Okay, repetitive behaviors give you what you want. Okay? So if you repeat these behaviors again and again, you'll have more intimacy and connection and possibly a better sex life. If you don't, you'll have exactly the behaviors you're repeating right now. Does that make sense? Okay, so I know you came for just, learn about all this stuff, but one of the things that this conference wanted to give you was the gift of you having a better life. You're the warriors. If you're not strong, this battle gets weaker and weaker and weaker, right? If I don't have a good marriage, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So I work on my marriage consistently so it stays strong so that I can go to war against the culture. Some of these people you were quoting, I had on Dr. Phil. Dr. Lee, the guy who wrote that book, he was on Dr. Phil with me, and he was kind of silly. And then there was a lady from the Kinsey Institute. She was on Katie Kirk with me just a few months ago, and she looked silly, the things she was saying, because they're not used to being talked back to, okay? And I'm at war, so I talk back. Katie was kind of like all flustered because I was off script. I don't have a script. I'm at war. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Okay. I don't have notes. I'm not looking at notes to help you get through this today. This stuff is inside of me. So what I do every day is help people have incredible marriages, help people recover from sexual addiction, help partners honor their pain and be able to move through it and be able to become incredible women again, and without having to feel like this is the only thing in their life. Okay, this is fun for me seeing this happen. So again, I want to thank you for bringing that. You want to give her another hand for Karen and just thank her for Karen Porter, one of the warriors in Portland. And so I'm going to turn it back over to you, I guess. All right. So why don't you come up and thank you all very much.